Welcome and thanks for coming to the big event 2021. Remember, the chat area is open between sessions and will run for a while after the last presentation. Here are Sean Scott and Cody Maki giving their presentation on connecting through game development.
Hi, welcome to Connecting Through Game Development, a topic that Cody and I are very excited to share with you. So I'm Sean Scott. I've been a front-end JavaScript developer since about 2014. Before that, I actually helped run an adventure company where we got veterans who suffered with PTSD on adventure trips. I've been a gamer almost my entire life and absolutely love games. Got into game development as a way to teach my daughters, but after creating my first game for her, being a math problem solver when she was only 8 months, I realized I needed to have some more to broaden my development skills in game development. But I'll go ahead and hand it off to Cody, let him introduce himself.
Yep, so I've been a developer for about 8 or 9 years now. Like Sean, I'm also like a big fan of games. I've been gaming most of my life. Also, I like to get outside and do a lot of hiking and backpacking. 2 images here on the right is for me from a backpacking trip in Royal, and then on the left is Mount Rainier in Washington. So what is Bogados? Bogados is the name of the game that we've been working on. The name comes from Bogado, which is a Japanese word for a wooden sword, basically like the katanas that they use for practicing. Yeah, and the Bogados is a 2D action platformer game that we've been working on for the past few months. So to start this off, before we get into too much of the game details, we're going to ask a few questions. So Sean, how did this begin?
Well, Cody, so you and I met during the first SDG networking event. So we were both fairly new to SDG, having started right at the end of the year. During that, we realized we both had a passion for game development, decided to start a game project together.
Yeah, and what's the goal of this project?
So I'd say we've had 2 goals for this project. The first being learning new technologies through game development, but the second one and the big one being connecting with other SDGers from different practices. And that's mainly what our focus is today, is building out this community.
Is this a finished game that we're demoing?
No, this is not a finished game. So there's a lot of additional features and stuff that we're going to be bringing into it. But like we said, this is a means for us to learn new technologies and to bring it into a fun stance with game development. So having only started this game in mid-December, being a moving blue square, it's came a long way, which you guys will see here in a little bit when we demo it.
Yeah. So why are we presenting this unfinished game?
Yeah, good question. Well, to start, this project's just been a lot of fun, and it's been a great way to connect with other SDGers. We're hoping that the audience out there, any of you, see what we've done here and want to join in, connect with us on this project. So there's also just a lot of really cool topics within game development in our game that we want to discuss as well. So talking about those topics, I'll kind of preface what we're going to be going over this evening. So to start, we'll be looking at the architecture and the design of the game, kind of our state management and how we're handling data flow within the game, the animation, graphics, sound, as well as our collision detection, our physics. We'll be kind of briefly touching on our stage builder and the stage creation. That's going to be part of the demo. So you'll just kind of get a brief snapshot of it and more into it when we demo it. And then we'll be getting into the performance enhancements that we've created for this game. So there's a lot of really unique problems that you have to solve with game development, as well as our custom debugging tools that's made development for this game so much fun. And then we'll wrap it up with our gameplay demo at the end. So this is kind of a snapshot of what the architecture for the game looks like right now. So we've kind of started it with this like hybrid microservices architecture. So you can see that top blue box is just a plain TypeScript game, very low on the dependency side. It's really only dependent on TypeScript and Webpack. And that's really allowed us to kind of stretch our knowledge with game development, having to learn all of these other aspects to the physics and the collision detection and stuff like that, and then how we're going to piece that off to create a consistent data flow with the game. Everything outside of that just handles the data flow for the game. So looking off to the left, you can see we've got a WebSocket server that's wrote in Java. We down below is our stage builder server that's built in .NET, our API. We've got off to the right the tracking API that's going to be handling all of the events pertaining to starting a game, ending a game, and stuff like that. And that blue box kind of encompasses why I love game development so much, because it just, you wouldn't typically think that having like a scoreboard would be that hard of a problem to solve. But when you think of scale and like millions of users and people playing these games and how many records would go into a database tracking every single time somebody plays, and then you need to aggregate all of that and essentially sort it and only return 10 to 20 records to display this high score, it can be very taxing and costly on a database. So, you know, instead it's best to just have that process kind of seamlessly done in the path of collecting all those records and organized in a meaningful way. So part of what we've designed here with our microservices architecture is we want this to be across as many practices as we can with SDG. That way it kind of allows other people to connect from other practices and learn these. So you can see just here's a brief list of our projects. So the Bocados front is the TypeScript project. The stage builder is that .NET API. The server is the Java WebSocket server, and then our tracker is actually Node.js. And then we're doing all of our CI/CD developments. All of our repos are in GitHub, so they're being triggered by GitHub Actions, and everything's going to be provisioned on AWS. So, and here's a brief look at what our state management looks like. So there's our whole state is essentially one object, and it's just being handled essentially by that root state. You can see on the right there, we've actually bound that to the window. That way we can have access to the state at any point in time. We can just pause the game, look at what our state is, and look at the data flow. And I've got a little arrow on the right side there for the tiles map. You can see that that map is holding, at that particular time when I took this photo, 70,000 tiles for that stage. So just remember that. We'll get to that a little bit later. So I'll go ahead and hand it off to Cody so he can discuss some of the animation and graphics.
So with this being a 2D game, we are using sprite maps. So we have these different types of animations. We're using just royalty-free images right now that we found online. So like this ninja can basically have like 10 frames per animation. They have the different sword attack animations, the gliding animation, the idle animation, jumping, you know, all these different animations that we were developing into the game. And then on the left, you can see that's the moving animation is shown by, I don't know how well it's showing up, but it's just like cycling through the different frames to display the image in motion. Yeah, you can go to the next slide. Yeah, so for the sound, what we have is we have a like custom sound engine that another developer helped work with us on. We have all the sound effects are going to be polyphonic, meaning that they can happen in parallel, and then we can like route them to a single channel and have that channel route to another channel. So in this example on the right here, we have like the different sound effects for like swiping sword, running. You have your like footsteps. Maybe the glide animation will also have a specific sound associated to it. So those special effects sounds will go into joined along with the music volume to go into the master volume controller, and then that eventually gets routed to the speaker. Yeah, I think we can go to the next slide. And then, so for our stage builder and for our stages, we're using the tile-based grid system. So in this image here, you can see each tile is, we consider it as like one unit of measure. And before, like all of our physics and collision detection, all that stuff is done using these units of measure. And then when we're just printing everything to the front end, we convert those game units into pixels so that we can render things based off of the dimensions of the user's monitor or display. And the nice thing about using these grid coordinates, it makes the tiles, it makes the collision detection really easy. So right now, if you're moving forward, we would be applying the forward momentum for the character, and then also there would be a gravity provided by the physics. But since there's like the screen tiles below us indicate that there's a tile platform there that we're running on, the gravity is negated, and therefore we're just moving forward instead of falling. If those tiles weren't below us, then the gravity would be causing the character to also fall. Yep.
So I'll go ahead and pick up and talk a little bit about the stage builder here. So part of the process of making this game was how we were going to handle the data flow, and we kind of dove into this feature, which turned into something a lot of fun within the game. But as you can see here on the left side, we've got our menu, which has some of the tools that are available. There's a lot more tools that are in development right now that we just couldn't demo today, but a lot of fun is coming with this, with like dynamic terrain generation, click and drag platform builders, stuff like that. And as well as all the tiles on the right side there for the tile selector. So essentially you can pick whatever tile you want, start building, just click and drop whatever you want. And then you can update the current stage you're on. You can create new stages, publish a stage for other players, and so on and so forth. We'll demo this a little bit more a little bit later. So, and then looking at the stages a little bit more in depth. So stages are built up of multiple regions. And if you remember that grid unit that Cody was showing, our regions are made up 100 by 100 of those tiles. And essentially stages are being loaded and saved, broken up into region sections. So this kind of plays into this idea that we were having, where we essentially want to have the ability to have stages that can be of infinite size with infinite players. And then outside of that, looking at some additional performance enhancements that we've brought into the game. So essentially the canvas is only going to be rendering tiles or looking at tiles that's within the camera view. So with the vast amount, like you saw earlier, 70,000 tiles, we wanted to restrict that to that very narrow window that the camera has. So we also have a frame tracker that's essentially tracking every single time duration between frames and throwing that into a custom queue to allow us to analyze the time duration and see if there's any drag within some functionality that we're testing.
Yeah, so I'll be talking about a little bit about the debug features that we've been adding. As we develop the game, we've been wanting to add new features to help us debug things faster, or just kind of visualize things, because sometimes when you're just working with a lot of like moving data, it's hard to visualize things. So we have this option to open up the debug menu to display the grid outlines, highlight and like hitboxes to help with the collision detection. We can have like different colors for these different boxes too. And yeah, and I guess Sean, if you want to talk about a little bit about the console there.
Yeah, yes. We have a Bocados object that's essentially bound to the window that essentially allows us to look at any piece of data or call any method we might want to test while we're playing. So like at any point, we can just pause the game, start checking stuff out, running some methods, anything that we want to do, we can just test it straight from the window. And this is actually the development features has been what's making this game so much fun, because it's just easy to just kind of stop time and look at stuff.
Yeah, so I'm going to take over screen share. Sean, if you want to stop sharing, I can walk through a quick demo. First off, Sean will be walking us through the stage builder, and then I will take over from there and show the actual game. I'm going to just refresh this.
Yep, so this is our very well-designed entry page. So a hint to any designers out there that want to help us with this, please. But Cody, you want to go ahead and hit the drop down for the stages. So this would be all the published stages for any of the player. They could pick one, drop into a stage. We've only got a few there, so let's go and jump into the builder and make another stage. So this is what our stage builder looks like. So it loads with the default stage for everybody initially, and you can essentially hit your drop down there, Cody. This is going to hold both your published and unpublished stages, so you can switch to another stage or whatnot. But let's before we do that, let's go ahead and show them. So go ahead and toggle on the grid. We can show them kind of, so we can start looking at the grid system while we're designing our stage. You want to scroll out a little bit. We have these coordinates kind of like popping on and popping off at a certain zoom. That way it doesn't clutter too much of the stage when you're trying to design it. You want to go ahead and pop the grid off there and zoom out until we can see the edge of the stage. So since this is a default stage, this is an unfinished stage, kind of encouraging people to build on this default stage. You want to load your custom stage that you have, Cody? And we can take a peek at that. Awesome. Big change. Yeah, but yeah, so as you pick your stage, it updates currently. And yeah, let's, you want to add some stuff to that to show how the stage builder works? Just throw a platform or something in there. Yep, and then, yeah, so at this point now, he could hit the update button, which would update his current stage, or he could hit the new button, which would create a pop down. He could rename it, just give it, yeah. And essentially now he's working on a brand new stage that's different from the one he had before. And you want to load up the presentation one that we're going to be demoing the gameplay on.
Yep.
So this is actually a very large stage. And you want to zoom out until we can see the whole thing and toggle on the region lines. So like we were saying before, these regions are 100 by 100. So each square there has essentially the data of 10,000 grid units for every single one. And each one of those is being stored separately in the database. So we're fetching everything, we're building out these maps, and this is going to allow the player to be able to move throughout the map and only dynamically load the pieces of the stage that is close to them, whether we're loading the neighbor regions or we're waiting till it gets close to a bound and then loading the region close to that bound. Yeah, you want to go ahead and.
Yep, it looks like we're a little short on time, so I'll try to go through this part quick. So I'm just loading into the map. What we have right now, we just spawn from the top. A lot of the movement mechanics. So it's pretty simple platformer right now. We can just move around. We have this glide mechanic, so you can hold shift to like slow your fall, and you can also move faster horizontally with that. So once I'm down here, there's also a basic sword attack that we have. You can see a lot of the collision detection, like I can't run into this wall, a lot of this stuff. And then the other thing that we've been working on is multiplayer. Oh, actually, before I do that, I wanted to show F9. So this is a debug tools that I was talking about. So like this white box here is a hitbox. So that's like where the collision stops. The blue box is like showing the actual size of the sprite that we're rendering. So those sprites can be different sizes based off of the type of animation we're displaying. You can disable that by doing that. And then I'm going to go over to this window. Oh, that broke something. I'm going to join that again. And then I'm going to join on this other tab to simulate the multiplayer. So now there's two ninjas running around at the same time. I think that's all I want to show for the demo right now. I think we're running 1 time. So Shana, if you want to take over again.
Yep. I can get my mouse to pop up here. Awesome. So here's a few of the other members that's been helping and contributing to this game. Justin and Tyler. And hopefully you. So here's the projects that are up on GitHub right now, if you want to check them out. So we are actively looking for contributors to join this community. Definitely people who've got design experience, want to design some custom sprites for us and some additional stage tiles. Right now we're working off some royalty-free stuff, and that definitely has its limitations. But yeah, with that, we'll go ahead and start taking any questions.
Peter says, and you said this was months, not years in development. Yeah. So we just started. When was it? At the end of December or mid-December or something like that?
Yep.
I don't see any other questions. Oh, release date when? Yeah, we don't have any release plans or anything like that. We're just kind of doing this for fun and learning mostly.
Yeah, we're kind of hoping to bring some more people on, connect with people, and to definitely learn, like working with Cody, his experience with Java, working in that Java practice has definitely helped me grow with my Java skills. And I'm sure as well, he's definitely more proficient with TypeScript than he was before we started this game project. So it's definitely been a huge learning experience for us and a great opportunity to connect.
Yeah, and Nathan is asking about performance experience, so like the frames per second and stuff. So typically we've been targeting, like all of our testing and stuff has been aimed at keeping around 60 frames per second. Of course, as we make more enhancements and stuff and actually get deployed to AWS, we're going to be doing a lot more enhancements and doing a lot more performance testing and stuff around like having multiple players, because like right now we don't have anything deployed, so we haven't fully tested all the multiplayer functionality and stuff like that. So I don't know if you wanted to add anything to that, Sean. I don't see any other questions right now.
Yeah, no, the performance side, there's stuff that we already have on our plate, like pertaining to the stage builder. I want to be able to like zoom way out, but right now it's essentially having to update every single grid unit. So I know how I'm going to be looking at essentially collecting the data for the regions and converting that to an image. So when we're at a certain zoom, we're moving images instead of the individual tiles. And just stuff like that. So we're going to be looking at performance definitely as like one of our top priorities moving forward with this game.
Yep, and then Nathan was also asking about different browsers. The only other browser that I've tested in is Firefox, and I actually did find a browser-specific bug in Firefox. Slow laptops and stuff. Yeah, we would be trying to test in basically make optimization so that there's less done on the front end and more of it's done on the back end. We're gonna have to do a lot more testing with that type of stuff, though, for sure. And I would like to have a feature in the future to have it supported on mobile phones and stuff, so we can have on-screen controls for that.
So one of the features that we have right now that we really didn't get to demo was next to the debug, we have a properties tab that's essentially there designed for testers who sort of play the game, essentially giving them full access to control all of the properties within the game and then to essentially submit what they thought were the best. So we can start playing and tinkering with the gravity and the move rates and the fall rates and stuff like that, but allowing the players to do that instead of us.
Really awesome job, guys. Really appreciate it. Thanks so much for doing this.
Yeah, thanks.
Absolutely. Thank you all.